On this edition of Awful Takes, I'm going to go back and look at some of the comments leading into the Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico co-main event of UFC 319. And this video is not to go after Aaron Pico by any means. I thought Aaron Pico actually performed quite well last night prior to him getting knocked out in the first round. I think that Pico's actually a nice addition to the featherweight division, and I hope he turns it around here. This is for people that were being very hysterical and arrogant going into the fight and backing Pico, and that's what we're going to focus on here. It's not to go after people who picked Aaron Pico. Big deal. People get fight picks wrong. So let's go have a look at some of the comments leading into the fight. Now, this was from a video I did talking about the original matchup of Movsar Evloev and Aaron Pico, and I think these comments are still relevant because in my opinion, I think Movsar Evloev is an even better fighter than Lerone Murphy. So we're going to start first here with John Dawkins, who says, "You are deeply ignorant of Pico. Literally, Pico has every advantage. Pico might be the best wrestler USA has ever produced. Evloev is screwed." Again, Pico getting knocked out in the first round. We have Jason here say, "Go watch Pico's fights. He's a Golden Gloves boxer with elite wrestling. Don't sleep on Pico. He's a fourth to be effed with. He was supposed to fight for the title, but Don Davis kept pushing the date and fight changes. Pico's a top prospect. Don't sleep on him." He's right about the Don Davis part pushing the title fight, but still, there's no reason that he should have been a guy that was going to be some sort of threat in the featherweight division when his best win was Henry Corrales at 37 years old. And here's John again, once again, making a great appearance here in this video. "You will learn how ignorant you are in Pico. Shallow take on Pico. Almost no chance Evloev wins. Pico is particularly terrible matchup. You think Evloev backed out for no reason? He got the real scoop and Pico and his coaches told him he would lose. He only started using his wrestling in the last several fights and stopped his Chandler-like recklessness under Jackson Wink, the future pound-for-pound GOAT. He has never lost a round of sparring or wrestling in training, like that means anything. He used to bounce Habib in wrestling when he was just 18 training out of San Jose. I don't think that was the case either. Multiple-time world champion wrestler. He's literally the best wrestler in the history of MMA with a never-ending gas tank. Go watch this guy's wrestling videos as 15-year-old. He thrashed Penn State's NCAA most valuable wrestler Rutherford multiple times. You are ignorant on Pico. He is a Golden Gloves national champ and world pancreas champ at 19 years old. Dude, you have no idea about Pico." I think I do have an idea about Pico. I don't think any of that is untrue about his wrestling credentials, but it hasn't translated to MMA. All the stuff that John's mentioning here is true about his wrestling accolades, minus the part about him out, wrestling Habib. I don't know about that, but none of that matters if you're not performing well in the cage. Again, Pico lost 4 times in Bellator. One of them was an injury. We can give him a pass on that when he fought Jeremy Kennedy and popped his shoulder, but he got finished by Adam Borax, finished by Zach Freeman, finished by Henry Corrales. That doesn't make him a super prospect when you've lost a bunch of key fights like this. And this is my issue, is that people were just ignoring the body of work he did in Bellator and didn't look at the things that were actually happening, not to mention the fact he hadn't had any quality wins in Bellator. If you go look at his resume here, Henry Corrales, Pedro Carvalho, James Gonzalez, Addy Edwards, Justin Gonzalez, Aiden Lee, John DeJesus, Solo Hatley Jr., Daniel Carey. Like, none of these wins are quality. None of these guys would be even close to the top 15 in the UFC. And that was my biggest issue, is that people were seemingly ignoring all that and saying, well, he looked good against them. Surely he'll do well here. I know you can only fight the competition you're given, but he's also fought better opponents and lost, like Adam Borax and Henry Corrales. So it's like, where do people get this idea that all of a sudden he's going to be this future champion? That's why I push back so hard on this. I think people were ignoring the facts and basing everything off potential, like John is here in this video. And here's a comment from Jason saying, "I like James, but he doesn't watch fights outside the UFC. Pico hasn't lost in a while. That Jeremy Kennedy fight, he was easily winning before he blew his shoulder out." Okay, I already explained that, yes, he's 9-1, but he's fought guys that aren't even close to UFC level. So of course he's going to look good in those fights. You're not looking at the opposition here. I absolutely watched all these fights and I went, look, these guys wouldn't make it in the UFC that he's beat. And he's been finished a number of times. That's an area of concern. And sure enough, the fact that he was finished in those fights, I think did play a role in him getting knocked out last night, because he has been finished before. Movsar Evloev's liver doesn't have the chin to stand up with Aaron Pico's body shots. To survive the fight with Pico, you need an iron liver chin. I don't know. I still don't think Evloev was going to get knocked out by Aaron Pico last night. Movsar Evloev has not looked bad in any of his fights. He's undefeated for a reason. Okay, I can already see people in the comments being like, you're just pulling up comments from the Evloev fight. I still think these apply, just for the simple fact that in my opinion, Evloev is a better fighter than Lerone Murphy. But for your viewing pleasure anyways, we do have comments talking specifically about the Murphy fight, and we're going to go through those right now. Once again, John with some great takes here. Pico's the future GOAT. He mauls Murphy, Evoyev, Volk, and Ilya over the next 2 years. No, he doesn't. Big Pico ignorance, maybe the best UFC wrestler ever, best wrestler in MMA, added in his boxing as a Golden Glove champ and legendary gas tank. Study his wrestling history. All he needed was the fight IQ and planning from Jackson Wink. I think John just has this in a notepad and just keeps copying and pasting it, but we still have to point it out. It wasn't ignorant to think that Pico was going to lose this fight based off the opposition he fought and that he beat in Bellator. I think level of opposition does play a big role in how a fighter will do in their career. Is that a terrible take? I don't think so. We got one here from Tim. James, respect to you for your content and your personality. I think you don't understand Pico's skill set and downplay his career. He was supposed to fight Pitbull for the title, but PFL dropped the ball. That's fair. I'll give him that. Before that, outside that, his one loss was due to a shoulder injury popping out. He was on a 9-fight win streak with 4 losses. He has the nastiest body shots in MMA. I understand your strength of schedule argument, but his first losses were literally when he was new to MMA. They shouldn't hold much weight. I don't think you understand his space or angles, and he's with Jackson and Brandon Gibson after his first 7 fights. You shouldn't be surprised if he beats Lerone or even Volk. You shouldn't be surprised if he went to 155 and beat Ilya. His wrestling and boxing are at the highest level. Some of the stuff here that Tim says, I agree with as far as Pico not getting his opportunity for the title. The part that you lose me here is when you're saying, it wouldn't be surprise me if he beats Volk or he beats Topuria. There's no evidence of that other than you just betting on his potential, which we hadn't seen that come to fruition against good opposition. My problem with Tim and a lot of people here is you're just looking at him fighting lower level opposition and you're just assuming he's going to be able to do that to someone like Alex Volkanovski, who by the way is maybe the best featherweight of all time, or Ilya Topuria, who's a 2-division champion. Like, come on, man. This is a classic example of people getting way too hysterical going into a fight and basing everything off potential. And the last video here was a video I did leading up to the fight where Henry Cejudo made this claim on his Pound for Pound podcast that the winner of Murphy and Pico would dethrone Volk. And I was kind of talking about how I think people are really overrating Aaron Pico going into the fight. And I kind of threw the question back to you guys. Do you think Pico's being overrated ahead of the fight with him being a betting favorite and people talking about him being a threat to Volkanovski? So let's go look at some of the comments from that video. And we got Tim making another appearance in this video. He says, you got to start paying attention to how fighters who beat and who they beat as much as you pay attention to who they beat. Jesus and Addy Edwards would 100% been top 15 fighters in the UFC. This almost seems like a troll job. There's no way in hell that Jesus and Addy Edwards would have been top 15 fighters in the UFC. Go take a look at what they've done since fighting Aaron Pico. So we have Addy Edwards and who's the other guy you mentioned? John DeJesus. Okay. And by the way, at the time he fought those fighters, John DeJesus was 30 years old and Addy Edwards was 32. So since Addy Edwards fought Aaron Pico, he's 35 now. He's gone on to lose his next fight and he hasn't fought since 2023. And again, going into this fight, he was 9-3. Or sorry, he was 9-1 at the time, but you look at who he fought prior to fighting Pico, not great opposition. And then you've got John DeJesus. Since losing to Aaron Pico, he has gone on to kind of alternate wins and losses here. And again, his record right now is 18-12. So we're not talking about someone that's gone on to bigger and better things since fighting Aaron Pico. So for him to say that, oh, they'd easily be top 15, very ignorant take in my opinion. So I respond here, they absolutely wouldn't be anything close to the top 15. Thanks for the good laugh. Just kind of throwing a little jab at him. Because again, if he's going to say you got to start paying attention, like, come on, man, you don't need to come at me like that. I can tell by your Pico analysis that you wouldn't even know if Addy or DeJesus were good enough. I'm going to laugh at you after Saturday. I'm the one who's laughing now. Pico got knocked out in the first round, and I just showed you that neither of those fighters went on to anything big after fighting Aaron Pico. So come on. Tim again. He hasn't lost a fight since 2019 when he just turned pro in 2017. Having a pro fight, I bet you can't show me 1 minute of any round he's lost since then 6 years ago. And again, I replied back, when you're fighting easier competition, that tends to happen. Any top 15 featherweight would be the same way. I still maintain that. You know, Dan Ige or Lerone Murphy or any of these guys are fighting Addy Edwards and John DeJesus. They're probably getting good finishes as well. So here we go. First off, everyone needs to get their facts straight. His first loss was early in his MMA career. Don't deny that. He was 20 years old, made the mistake and got submitted. He was actually in control of the fight, but he lost regardless. It was still when he was learning. It was not a knockout, so please don't say his chin is weak. His next fight was at 22. Yes, it was a TKO, but again, he was in control, not getting manhandled. His last loss was an injury. All you haters need to give him a shot. He's a well-rounded fighter. Great hands. I mean, great hands. Great enough that he could just be a pro boxer at the top of the sport. His wrestling is probably the best in the sport. Again, his wrestling is the best in the top of the sport. Based off what? Who is he beat to justify that he's the best wrestler in this sport? And I'm saying pure wrestling and MMA wrestling. Please don't compare him to Bo. Aaron is so well-rounded in MMA wrestling, it's not even funny. The Aaron Pico of years ago was good, and he was just a kid. He's reaching his prime, and he's still young and great. Lastly, his conditioning and strengths are hands down one of the best I've seen next to Michael Chandler. Give him a chance. Aaron Pico is going to wow you. He didn't wow us. He did look good leading up to the knockout. I'll give you that. But again, this is what I'm talking about. People already getting ahead here and acting like this is a guy that's a threat to Volk or that he's a future champion. Spare me. This is why you need to fight good competition in order for us to make those assessments. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you can tell John is Aaron Pico's #1 PR representative. Yeah, I mean, you can see it here. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but he just keeps mentioning how Pico will take over Steph Curry-like with humility, confidence, and grace. Only Ilias has a puncher's chance if Pico employs John Jones-like fight IQ with planning and adjustments. Again, this is all based off potential. It's not based off anything that Pico's done. And then this guy was talking about John's comment about him being the best USA wrestler, and John says, do your Pico research. Again, there's no reason to think he's the best USA wrestler in MMA history. He hasn't accomplished anything in MMA, so you could maybe say that as a fun, note to add, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not winning fights. So anyways, we're just having some fun here today with some of the comments leading into the fight. And again, I don't have a problem with people picking Pico, and it's not to go after Pico. This is just for people who get way ahead of themselves when they're talking about a fighter and being really hysterical, as you saw in some of these comments here. So let me know what you think of some of the comments that we saw leading into the fight. Let me know your thoughts on the fight. Would love to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.